Hey everybody, this is Jimmy Pockets, aka James, Empty Pockets Garage. I had a couple things I wanted to talk about tonight, being how it's night owls, being up this late. Uh, we may have a lot or a little to talk about. I was going to talk about the growing proof of the several gangs in this country, and one that is here locally at our town, or in our town. And I also wanted to play a video, which I'm going to play. Back in the day, uh, when we did not realize that the mainstream media was so far left leaning, they kind of did a very good job of hiding it, I guess, in a way. But, now that all the gloves are off anymore, um, you just can't trust none of them. So we'll talk about that. I'll play a video of Walter Cronkite talking about the Clintons. And then, of course, the breaking news. Not that Matt Gaetz was nominated by President Trump to be, head of DOJ, but how hackers hacked in and leaked the that's how you say that, the testimonies of the witnesses, supposedly against the case that was investigated against him. One was having sex with an underage girl, and of course, the other one was hanged for sex. Hey, TJ, sorry guys, I just now clicked over on my channel, on my chat room. Six Stringer, what's up? But so, of course, we know that in both these allegations, of course, when you say you have an allegation against you that they're going to do an investigation or whatever, the way the mainstream media puts it, like it's already true. Now, this is old information. It's not new information. Uh, they didn't have any credible evidence that uh, they would have, otherwise they would have definitely, that they would have definitely charged him with it. Anyway, they dropped the cases. So, but they figured they'd put that stuff out there to muddy the waters, to see how ethical or unethical Matt Gaetz is. You know, it, him dating girls that are younger than him, that's a judgment on him. That's doesn't have nothing to do with somebody doing the job. Now, if he's actually breaking the law, I would have you have to go. That's a different situation. But from what I've seen so far, they don't really have, because I guess, not to get too far off course on that, uh, one of these girls was trying to blackmail his father on trying to, because of a political opponent, Matt Gaetz there in Florida, and that they were going to throw all these allegations out there. Uh, if Matt Gaetz would have done something, or something about getting a position, I can't remember what it was. I didn't study that part of it. I just was paying attention to the hacking as if it was actually, nobody hacked that. You guys know better than that. But yeah, so we'll get into that a little bit, and yeah, Nancy, dating a younger person, that's on them. That's, honestly, if, and I was watching the program earlier today, and they were talking about character, and this was about Donald Trump's character, not Matt Gaetz. about him years ago cheating on his wife or whatever, and some early. But they tend to forget the left really reveres Bill Clinton and John F. Kennedy as like their premier presidents of all presidents. And both of these people had girlfriends on the side. But yet they want to act like if Donald Trump by chance did that too, then he was not worthy of holding the position of president. But he's already been president once, so it's kind of an old argument. So I really don't go for that kind of. I mean, of course, you can say I'm a guy, and I'm gonna say that it is what it is. There's just some arguments that just it's not worth arguing over. I guess it's a battle, not the war kind of thing. Yeah, Kev, I get some places it's legal at 17. The thing with the legal at 17 thing is I don't know if you're, and I don't know how old he was at the time. I think he's 40 now or something, but you know, it, I guess there's a cringe factor there. It just depends on the individual. Um, so and everybody has their own mindset of what they think is good or bad or does bother them, doesn't bother them. That's something that you have to discuss in your internal self. But really, you got to think about. It's kind of like because people talk about, he's a billionaire, he's not your friend, he's this and that, and like I've said many times, I'm hiring him to do a job for me. I'm not hiring him to be my buddy. I'm not hiring him to, uh, you know, for him to be the best husband in the world. I mean, I'm sure he is now. Honestly, if he did bad things in the past, I think by now he's gotten to the age that he's settled down and comfortable in his own skin. That he doesn't need to do that kind of silliness, which we obviously know that's probably true. I'm not going to try to defend his thinking on that, but once again, um, if you go to interview somebody for a job, do you really ask them these questions? I mean, seriously, does anybody? I mean, politics is the only place where this even becomes an issue. Now, I know some companies you've got like a morality clause thing you got to sign after you get the job. So it's not nothing that you've previously done, but anything you do while you're working for them. So, yeah, Nancy, the Epstein list, that is true. But they say a lot of these people, even though some of them got paid, um, well, a lot of them got paid. Uh, you'll probably find most of the people who endorsed uh, Kamala is probably on Diddy's party list, if not Epstein's list too. And something tells me they all intertwine a little bit. So we'll see how that ends up, and hopefully we'll know more about it uh, once Trump actually gets back in office. I mean, hopefully there'll be a lot of things we find out more about. Of course, it's so funny. Excuse me. Uh, all these legal people, all these investigators and lawyers, and all these people are lawyering up. Why would they be lawyering up? What do you think they're scared of? Because if they're so trustworthy with the law, justice for everybody, whether it's Donald Trump's DOJ or Biden's DOJ, that the court system would have their back. If they're innocent, they're innocent. If they're not, they're not. So, what are they scared of? And I seen somebody was discussing earlier today about not going after them, be better than them, uh, you know, just do the job that the American people are hiring me for, and just let it go. Oh, I so disagree on that. I say go after them with the full weight of the justice system. Don't make up things, but don't let them get away with anything. Well, Kev, yeah, I mean, he's not my problem unless he doesn't do a good job. Then he's all of our problem. But I feel like he it's almost you have to uh, bring a lot of these people that's in some cases they did break the law. So uh, they need to be held accountable, and for anything, if nothing less, as to make a political party that knows never to do this to another political operative again. You 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 treat this with everybody on the same playing field instead of all these nasty, dirty, uh, changing the rules for this, making up laws for that, uh, stuff that even makes absolutely no sense to anybody, but yet they look you in the face on TV and try to convince you of something. And I'm not going to get into all the lawfare part of it because it's been discussed many times. But it's just they just got to know that you run on policy, run on what you're going to do for the American people. Quit running on somebody as a personal, like all the personal attacks. I mean, they really there's plenty to run negative on against Trump, other than he's personally a bad character of a person. The problem is they pretty much couldn't compared to the policies that they try to put forth. So they really didn't have a good argument. So they do the personal attacks because it's never about what I can do for you. It's about I'm not him. That's how they run the last two uh, presidential cycles. It's vote for me because I'm not him. But now that that's out of the way, like I was saying, the Matt Gaetz thing that's popped up. I knew a little bit about and I mean a very little bit about the case and that they were trying to bring against him in Florida. But I heard more about the person trying to blackmail his father than I did anything else. Um, but anyway, they couldn't. They decided not to bring charges against him because they didn't have any credible evidence or credible witnesses. So apparently, there's something wrong with these individuals that brought these allegations forth. So saying that, he's still 100% eligible to be nominated for the you know the attorney general. All they're trying to do is muddy the waters, throw that out there in the news cycle. Although, when Joe Scarborough and Mika go to Mar-a-Lago to have a conversation with President Trump, you know what it felt like we had a small earthquake here in Ohio. I woke up, I felt that shake. Did y'all feel that shake? Like you knew something was just went crazy over the weekend? Because I don't know if y'all know the whole story behind that. Because Joe Scarborough and Donald Trump used to be halfway decent friends. I didn't know, if you guys remember the whole story of how they flipped from him talking positive about President Trump to going full on President Trump as Hitler. And but I'll give you a little backstory on that. Let me hang on. I'm going to read chat real quick. Do you think there will be a lockdown when Trump brings in the military? Any sign of illegals leaving Springfield? Yeah, let me answer that real quick. Individual went to go rent a U-Haul a few days ago, and there were none available. All U-Hauls were rented out going out. Come to find out, they were rented out by immigrants or migrants, however you want to call them, newcomers. Now, whether they're self-deporting or they're just getting out of Springfield because Springfield is a hot topic and probably will be a hot topic when it comes to starting the deportation. Saying that, people tend to forget that these people are here under this temporary protective status, which Biden extended into 2026. Now, saying that don't mean there are some of them here that can't be deported. Obviously, there sure are some that are here. Because of this many people here, there will be some that should not have ever been here, and those probably will be taken out. But the mass of them, the majority of them, really have nothing to worry about at this point. Because, that's because of our laws and how we do our temporary protective status deal. Once something is signed, it's kind of like it's kind of like a contract or a small treaty that as a country, we promised them this till that date. So the ones that I see that are leaving just don't want the hassle, or a lot of them are probably the ones that don't have jobs. All the ones that kept showing up and kept showing up and kept showing up after there's not enough jobs to go around anymore. And that kept coming. I see that those are probably the ones that are renting all the U-Hauls and headed south or wherever they're headed. So that's my thing on that. But we do have, because one of the things I was going to talk about tonight here is I was going to talk about all the gangs that are popping up all over the country. And we have one here. And those are the ones I worry about. I don't think the military will be needed, to be honest with you, at least not in this small part of, our town. Our town would be different, I guess, if this was a Columbus situation or something like that, but it's not. So, but where was that? So, anyways, so as far as nationwide, uh, I believe the military will have to be used in some cases. There's just no way around it. Um, and I think that, in my personal opinion, there are ways to handle these sanctuary cities. Now, it'll take time to, okay, so you have to go through Congress because each state gets a certain amount of federal funds or certain things to try to figure out what you can interrupt as far as financials and stuff like that, which is basically really the only thing that they really can do to a state is to cut some kind of funding off for them or to them. So saying that, I'd say at least cut off all the funding of the money, like how they've been getting paid through FEMA and all these other ways that they've been getting paid. And then I think all these people that are wanting to stay in the country are headed to all these sanctuary states and cities. Now, we're not a actual sanctuary state or city here. They call it something else. It's a welcoming city or something, which I guess we've been called that here for 10 years. And honest, I did not know that myself. Did not know that. So it's kind of one of those things that DeWine's been part of this whole time. So, DeWine is a big part of why we have the problem we have right now with uh, the protective status immigrants that we have here now. Because he had him and he's part of it. He kind of did the click thing with the Clintons. They had their foundation about working, doing a bunch of charity stuff for the people of Haiti, and then DeWine had his school that he started in his daughter's name. But they had to close that down. Yeah, if they FEMA used when you hear people talk about they had the Bank of America cards, they had the Bank of America cards. That was probably through FEMA. The EBT cards is done through another fund, but the actual cash cards is done through FEMA. But back to what I was saying is they thought, even DeWine's school had to be closed down because of all the gang activity that's going on in Haiti. So, what? Nobody does not feel for the situation that some of these people are going through in their home countries, especially the families, units that are having to deal with that stuff. The ones who are just trying to raise their kids. But honestly, the huge portion of the most recent people that keeps coming into our town, they're busting in here, are all military age young men. So, saying that, we do have a local gang of Haitians that is basically their income, other than the government's, is uh, prostitution, and they are collecting guns. So those are the ones that will probably be a problem going forward. I'd say by the end of January, into February sometime. But we'll see how that goes. And the Haitians, if you watch any videos of their home country, they are not above kidnapping people, mutilating people. there's nothing they won't do to get what they want. So saying that, U.S. citizens just isn't used to that. They almost say they still say here in this town that'll never happen here. That won't happen here. No way. These people aren't like that. That won't happen here. And I do not want to be the one that said I told you so. I really don't. But you know, we'll see what happens going forward. That's a local. Even though that's national, that's local. But I wanted to talk. The gangs. I mean, we got gangs. Obviously, everybody's heard of the ones in Colorado, in Chicago, Knoxville, Tennessee. You got them here in our town, Springfield. I mean, in just about every single state in this country, there are gangs popping up. Got them in New Jersey, got them in New York. So these are the ones that I'm sure that Tom Homan and President Trump are talking about. It's got to go first, so they can get public safety back under control. That's exactly what they were saying. I just seen Tom Homan do an interview the other day. He's never wavered from his point of view on this whole deal about how to handle things, how to do it, who to do it to, as far as deportation. And it's like how they try to twist his words around, which it's going to happen no matter what. Anything you say, they're going to try to twist. Let's just, whenever you hear something that sounds bad, take a deep breath and give it a day or two and see if you can't find more than one source of saying something, or at least find something where you can find a video or something where they've actually said it that you can watch, and not just a little clip either. It's got to be a conversation. Watch 10 or 15 minutes of it and see what that's all about. You know what I mean? Steve, I was watching the news, and I was literally seeing where people who are trying to usually just climb the fence, and the border patrol are there, and they like holler at them, and just recently they would just continue to climb the fence because the border patrol was told to capture and release. Now, even though President Trump is elect President Trump, uh, I seen where they just stop climbing the fence and just walk back the other direction. So the the power of persuasion, it's there. It's pretty relevant. Yeah, Marley. I don't know how many people are just like uh, Tom Holman, but he is to me a very good, sincere man who he's strict about the law, which it's kind of that's what we pay them to do. We pay them to be the ones who are strict with the law. So you know you gotta let them do their job. All these making excuses of, like, I hate when they always say where they're asylum seekers or asylum seekers. They really need to change the definition of the requirements, not necessarily definition, the requirements of asylum seeking. Because right now, the way I see it is, uh, you could have been robbed by an individual on the corner of the sidewalk somewhere, and you could come to this country and seek asylum, which is the dumbest thing in the world because anybody can become a victim of violence in any country. And as far as coming here just to make money, file for a work visa. Everybody said if we start doing these mass deportations, that the American economy will fall apart. Well, why are we hiring that many undocumented people working in the first place? Why are not all these people getting work visas? I mean, I don't see where if there's jobs to be had that our U.S. government uh, would not give out work visas for people who want to come here and work. So that's kind of a dumb argument too. So we'll get on with that. And then, like I said, like I've already talked about the Joe Scalberry. For those who've seen where him and Mika said that they went down to Mar-a-Lago and had a talk with President Trump because they wanted to uh, you know what's the term they said when they were asked why did they do that, and I guess their reply is why not, because he's going to be in charge. But he was in charge before and they never wanted to have a conversation with him. Things are different this time. Everybody sees things are different. He's not the naive TV celebrity that they thought they could just lie to like they did in his first term, and he got bad advice about who to put in front of and head of different departments, and he had a lot of people that lied to him. And honestly, I don't know if those people will ever be held accountable, but some of them, especially when you tell a U.S. president that is your commander in chief, when he asks you to remove soldiers from a location and you lie to him and say you did when you didn't, something ought to be done about that. I mean, where's the rule of law? How is it people can get away with this stuff and not? And I ain't saying not everybody's got to go to prison or whatever, but people need to lose, if not their jobs, or their jobs and let's say their pension. If a police officer can be 10 days away from retirement, if he does something really stupid, he could lose his retirement. These generals that lied to the president in his first term, they should lose their retirement at minimum. Australia, awesome. What is that? Trash Bash. That's one of the reasons why I started this night owl thing for people who have different time zones, and for us people like me who don't sleep a lot, or at least when everybody else is supposed to be sleeping. But so here's what I did. So guys, this is what I ramble. So get back to the Joe Scalberry. I have a hard time talking all the time. Not an ass. Yeah, John. Yep. Um, but the original deal on that is uh, Joe and Mika were in an affair. They were seeing each other behind their spouses' backs. They were both married to different people, to other people at the time when they were both co-hosting the uh, the morning show. So President Trump was friends with uh, the person who owns the National Enquirer, and I guess this story was going to come out about them knocking boots, and apparently they hadn't told their spouses yet that they were going to leave them, because they were, I mean, they were in a serious relationship and serious affair. They, of course, obviously, they ended up getting divorces from other people and got married. Um, but not only did you know President Trump told him no, that he wasn't going to stop the story. Um, I guess Mika had just recently went under the knife and was still healing from some um, cosmetic surgery, facelift or something. Well, I guess she was still had like galls on her, and it still bleed through the galls a little bit or something. And I guess Trump made a comment in public about that, and that became the beginning of the uh, Trump is the worst person to ever become president ever. So that's what started that whole deal. In case people didn't know about that backstory, that's what that was all about. Was they had a story coming out in national? I'm pretty sure it's National Enquirer. It's who it was one of them tabloids that President Trump was friends with the owner, editor, or somebody, and so saying that's where they put their pettiness ahead of you know real information, the news, you know not whether it's one thing to not like a person because you didn't get what you thought you should have got out of them. Like if they were friends, maybe he expected a friend to do that for him, and maybe he should have. But when you are in, have a podium to where you can talk to hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and you shit talk about somebody constantly. I mean, it seemed like every 3 or 4 months it escalated to something worse till they were agreeing he was Hitler. You know what I'm saying? So, and then when now that he become president and they realize they're losing their audience. They were, I guess, they're being sold off or something. So I guess Joe and Mika figured to save their jobs, it was time to go have a talk with President Trump. And from what I understand, it was a productive conversation. As Trump, no matter how, I got to say this about President Trump, guys. No matter how much, and even him, he trash talks people, but no matter how much somebody's trash talk him, he tends to find a way. And I'm not going to say forgive them or whatever, but at least work with them. And knowing that Joe and Mika are part of the, media, national, they have a national I don't want to say syndicate, national program that a lot of people watch, not as much as they used to, I guess. That's part of the problem. But he was willing to talk to him after all the stuff that they've said about him. And I mean, just within the last month, was calling him Hitler. But yet he's still willing to have a conversation with him. Yeah, and I'm just sorry. I was reading chat. I was reading Nancy. Marco Rubio is so. Nancy, you could be right about the warmongering thing, but saying that, hear me out here on this. If left to his own devices, maybe, absolutely, for sure. But if he wants to not destroy his political career going forward, he needs to follow the agenda that President Trump wants done. And if President Trump says, we're not getting involved with this, you need to negotiate this, or, this can't happen, whether it's two people having a military conflict or whatever, we need to help them work it out. You know, we're not going to be part of this war. We're going to keep these people from killing each other. I think, I could be wrong, but I think that Rubio is smart enough not to go against President Trump's agenda and do his own thing and go off and be, a rogue person who, because if he does anything that screws up what Trump's trying to accomplish, he's going to be out. And as powerful as President Trump and the MAGA Republican has gotten, probably out for good. So I don't see him. I see a lot of these people that you may think on their own, probably not. But under President Trump, different kind of politician. And I'm hoping I'm right on that. I feel that I am. And, because these people are all, they're survivors. They want to survive. If, Marco Rubio's a young man. He still has aspirations of being president one day. And if he does something that, puts Trump in a bind, and it makes him look bad in the long run, then his chances of being that person they would go to, say, hey, you might be available to be our next nominee for president of the United States. He could screw that all up. Yes, Nancy, that's what he is right now. He's a tool in a toolbox. And that's what I'm saying. So he's on his own. He probably is everything that you're definitely saying he is, because you're right. I've seen him say certain things, and I agree with you on that. But I try to see about what they were, or what they want to be, and then what they have to be. All these people are chameleons, most of them. Most of them. But I have to say, when President Trump picks these appointments that are outside the normal realm of government politicians, even some of them that are actual still politicians, but you would not expect, it's like these nominations come out, almost sounds like they come out of left field, and then when you think about it for a little bit, and then you go, that was good. That was good. So, I feel like it's gonna be a good deal. Long as these people can get nominated, or through Senate rather. Like Hegseth, they're already calling that man a white supremacist. It's like they can't come up with any original reasons why they don't like somebody. One thing is they don't like the fact that he worked for Fox. They forget his whole military career and everything like that. And how many of you guys like the idea of Dan Bongino being head of Secret Service? Because they're floating that around. As far as I know, that's not been announced one way or another, but they are floating that around right now. Which I like Dan Bongino a lot. And, when he went down and did his thing in front of Congress on what he thought went wrong for the assassination attempt, what the Secret Service was doing wrong, and the things that they need to do better. I think President Trump was listening to that, honestly. And, Dan Bongino had a lot of good ideas right then or then there on the spot in front of Congress, and was hoping that they would listen to him and just not let it go in one ear and out the other, whether it be him putting it through there or if somebody else will do it. Because I don't think he really was he wasn't applying for a job when he was doing it. He had real concerns about the Secret Service doing their job right. So, see, where are we at? I'm going to play this video here in a minute of Walter Cronkite. A lot of you, I know most of everybody on here probably knows who Walter Cronkite is, and what the mainstream news used to be all about. Saying that, what I want to talk about first, real quick, is the Biden changing his policy and telling Ukraine that they can fire long-range missiles into U.S. long-range missiles into Russia. And then, of course, we all know about, I forget how many thousands of North Korean soldiers are now in Russia that are getting involved in the conflict. And then, of course, China's there doing their little military exercises right now, too. Yeah, Nancy, Dan Bongino is he's a real hardcore, staunch uh, government government security type official, uh, calling the people out who don't do their jobs right. He was in the Secret Service for like 12 years himself. He's done all kinds of. He was in the military, Secret Service, uh, police department somewhere. I can't remember where. I want to say New York, but don't quote me on it. But he's always been a cop. Basically, it's what even Secret Service they consider themselves cops, uh, and he's always called out the wrongdoings of these people in their jobs. And his talk show. I think he even tried to be a politician there for a little while, but he just he wouldn't kiss butt, so he never would have made a good politician. Yeah, yeah, Marla, Walter Cronkite. I'm playing this because Rusty, and I didn't know if he was going to end up on here tonight or not. Rusty Nuts would just play. He plays a word game with his little name that he has on here. Has been sending me some good stuff. A lot of stuff is reading material, and we're going to get into that in another live stream. The reading material on who's related to who. Like the Pelosi's, the Soros, the Clintons. Like who Hillary and Bill Clinton's daughter, who she's married to. Um, it's a web of corruption just by name association that is unreal. So I want to get into that in another live stream. But tonight I wanted to keep it to just a couple subjects. Um, like I said, I was probably already going to be playing this video, but uh, the thing where Biden changed his policy and is allowing Ukraine to fire long range ballistic missiles. Well, I call them ballistic long range missiles into Russia. I think he's trying to start something that's going to be hard for Trump to de-escalate without some kind of serious conflict amongst not just I mean, when they're involved with North Korea and China now with Russia, and I heard Iran too, but I don't know how much of that is other than financing maybe. But I hope that Zelensky, I'm sure President Trump's probably been in communication with him and probably has asked him not to do it. Because, of course, now Putin is saying that if he does do it, since America has sanctioned that deal, that he'll probably fire small nukes into Ukraine. And everybody thinks that when they talk about nuclear war, it's not always got to be this megaton bomb that gets dropped and, hundreds of miles it gets radiated. It's not like that. They have small arms nuclear tactical weapons that they literally could wipe out 20 miles, 15, 20 miles of uninhabitable land for a country. And I can see Putin doing that without any hesitation, because he'll drop it in a part of Ukraine that he doesn't care about. But he's still wanting to keep a certain portion of this. That's his whole idea of doing all this fighting, is he believes that part of Ukraine belongs to Russia no matter what. So if he fires it into an area that's overly populated, what's the rest of the world going to do? Because if he does it, I'm guaranteed he's not going to do it just because he wants to. I guarantee he's asking China if it's okay. He's probably talking to Iran if you guys got my back if I do this. He's probably talked to North Korea saying, hey, if I do this, you guys going to fight with us? So, hopefully this can get squashed and nobody listens to Joe Biden on this. Kamala's mother. Yeah, on that, especially with Candace Owen doing that deep dive into that ancestry. Sorry. That may be part of my list of people that I'm talking about that we'll be talking about in another live stream coming up. But I want to keep these live streams to, we're not trying to do a whole college course here. We're just wanting to talk about some current topics of the week. And then I want to throw in some stuff along with that as we go. So I tell you what, let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and play this video, see if I can get it to play, because I'm still new at this stuff, guys. And we'll let me see if I can get her going. I'll be right back with you.
Global Governance Award, Walter Cronkite. World government is the structure necessary for global justice. You, sir, have been a lifelong advocate of this principle, and it is appropriate, therefore, that we present you with this amethyst geode.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And there are many of us here who had wished back a couple of decades ago that we had been addressing you as Mr. President in a slightly different environment. And thank you, Mrs. Annan, for those lovely words you spoke. I will treasure them, and I'm greatly honored, quite obviously, by the Norman Cousins Global Governance Award. I'll try to get it right, since I will be referring to it frequently, of course, from now on. First, there are two reasons, really, why I'm particularly grateful and honored by this award. The first, I believe, as Norman Cousins did, that the first priority of humankind in this difficult era is to establish an effective system of world law that will assure peace with justice among the peoples of all the world. But second, I feel rather sentimental about this award and this organization, because half a century ago, Norman Cousins offered me a job as the spokesman and the Washington lobbyist for the really nascent organization called World Federalists. I was honored. He and Oscar Hammerstein met me in the Waldorf and twisted my arm quite vigorously, get me to take the job, to take the place of Ted Waller, who was the first lobbyist and a noted supporter of the world. I chose instead, it turned out, to continue in the world of journalism. For many years, I did my best to report on the issues of the day with as much fairness as I possibly could, in objective a manner as possible to achieve. When I had my own strong opinions, I tried to put them aside for the moment in the interest of fairness. I didn't communicate to my hope to my audience. Now, however, my circumstances are considerably different. I'm in a position to speak my mind, and by God, I'm going to do it. You know, those of us who are living today can truly influence the future of civilization. We can influence whether our planet is going to live or die, whether it's going to drift into chaos and violence, or whether through a monumental educational and political effort, we will achieve a world of peace under a system of law where individual violators of that law are brought to justice. For how many thousands of years now have we humans been what we insist on calling civilized? And yet, in total contradiction, we also persist in the savage belief that we must occasionally at least settle our arguments by killing each other. While we spend much of our time and a great deal of our treasure in preparing for war, we see no comparable effort in establishing peace. Meanwhile, emphasizing the sloth in this regard, those advocates who work for world peace by urging a system of world law and order, world government, if you please, are called impractical dreamers. Those impractical dreamers are entitled, it seems to me, to ask their critics, what is so darn practical about war? First, we Americans are going to have to yield up some of our sovereignty. That's going to be, to many, a bitter pill. It would take a lot of courage, a lot of faith, a lot of persuasion to them to come along with us on this necessity. Our forefathers believed that the closer the laws are to the people, the better. Cities legislate on local matters, of course. States make decisions on matters within their borders. And the national government deals with issues that transcend the states, such as interstate commerce, foreign relations. That's what we mean by federalism. Today, we must develop federal structures on a global level. To deal with world problems, we need a system of enforceable world law, a democratic federal world government. You know, what Alexander Hamilton wrote about the need for law among the 13 states applies today to the approximately 200 sovereignties in our global village, all of which are going to have to be convinced to give up some of that sovereignty to the better, greater union. Hamilton said, and it's not going to be easy, Hamilton said, to look for a continuation of harmony between a number of independent, unconnected sovereignties in the same neighborhood would be to disregard the uniform course of human events and to set at defiance the accumulated experience of ages. Most important, we should sign and ratify the Treaty for a Permanent International Criminal Court. That is now at the core of the World Federalist Movement's drive. That court will enable the world to hold individuals accountable for their crimes against humanity. Their leader, Pat Robertson, has written in a book a few years ago that we should have a world government, but only when the Messiah arrives. He wrote, literally, any attempt to achieve world order before that time must be the work of the devil. Well, join me. I'm glad to sit here at the right hand of Satan. Let us hear the peal of a new international Liberty Bell that calls us all to the creation of a system of enforceable world law in which the universal desire for peace can place its hope and its prayers. Thank you.
America. It wasn't the news until Walter Cronkite told us it was the news. Every night at 6 o'clock, we welcomed you into our living rooms and listened as you explained the complex events of the day. Whether it was the space race or the Vietnam War, presidential elections, or peace treaties, you were there, telling us in simple yet riveting prose what was happening. You became a trusted member of my family and of families across America. For decades, you told us the way it is. But tonight, we honor you for fighting for the way it could be. We honor you for lending your voice to the cause of human rights around the world and for your lifelong commitment to international human rights law. From your reporting on the Nuremberg trials to your work with the WFA campaign to end genocide, you have stirred our consciences and challenged all of us to live closer to the words of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. So thank you, Walter. Thank you for inspiring all of us to build a more peaceful and just world. We are still listening to your every word. And with your continuing leadership, we can sail across these unnavigated seas into the 21st century. And there's no better captain I can imagine than you. Thank you.
Gentleman from Florida is recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, guys, if you paid attention to what he was saying, he was saying that we have to be willing to give up our sovereignty to be part of the global, today they call it the New World Order. Back then they just call it federalism. And the Clintons were a big part of it, as you could tell. These are the things we have to assume that our current mainstream news outlets, all these so-called reporters and journalists, all feel the same way because they were all taught by the same professors. They read the same books. They travel in the same circles. This is why we needed President Trump to win. And I'm glad he did, but it ain't over yet. They're all playing nice right now, in case you can't tell. I mean, there's still you have your people who are true believers in what they believe in, that are just downright like the Joy Reids of the world or the ladies on The View. There's no change in their minds. It don't seem to be. You get people like Joe Scarborough and Mika. They'll go whichever way the wind blows. That's to their benefit. But a lot of them are the true believers about trying to be just an American patriot is a bad thing. Can't have it. I'm sure most of us won't put up with it. So hopefully that's next. And I say 18 months because really for all intents and purposes, they've got a solid 18 months of getting in there, rooting into the core of all the rot and start cutting it out. And hopefully if they do a good enough job in that 18 months, we can get enough reelected and new ones elected in the midterms to continue on for the whole 4 years and beyond. If we can get through a whole 4 years of doing Trump's agenda, then more likely the next president will be a Republican president too. Yeah, lady, we know the way, but it takes people in power like President Trump and J.D. Vance and Matt Gaetz and the Jim Jordans of the world, and even the Senator Kennedy. I love that Southern guy. It takes people who are disruptors, and this little shadow government that they are, and they're saying it out in public now. They're trying to put together a shadow government. And who did they say they wanted to be their head person for the shadow government? Adam Schiff. Can these people ever learn anything? I mean, Adam Schiff, the Russia guy, who claimed there was evidence on top of evidence on top of evidence when there was never none. He tried to get the American people to swallow that pill every day. There wasn't a camera he wasn't in love with it, trying to get in front of and spew that narrative of Russia. And then you got these Democrats in Pennsylvania who flat out have said that they are counting the votes that their own state Supreme Court says do not count. They are illegal votes. They are no good. But yet they're wanting it's like they don't think anything will happen to them. And why do they think that? Why do they have the gonads to think that they can say this stuff on camera in public? We all can see the video of them actually saying it, that they're going to defy their Supreme Court of their state and count these so that they can get their right representation for their Senate. Those people need to be arrested and thrown in jail. And I don't, if they do try to count that and turn that in to be counted, and that would affect not the presidential election, but it's enough votes in the down ballot to change things. That's election interference. Hopefully something will happen to them. I say hopefully. I demand something happen to them. But we got things to worry about still. I'm getting off on a tangent, but I wanted everybody to watch that video of Walter Cronkite accepting that award. And he was retiring. As you know, he said he couldn't say it before, but he damn could say it now that he was retired about what he really thought. And he really thought that we didn't have a right to our own country, as if there was a bigger picture, and that most Americans were too stupid to get the big picture. Yes, Howie, it was Bucks County. You're correct. But you see what I'm saying? If you've seen that, you'll see the three individuals up there in front of the cameras talking about that they were going to count the ballots anyway. No matter what the court said, they were counting the ballots. So, this. I hope tonight's night out edition of what I call Night Out Chat. It's been a good one. I did want to talk about something else. I know what it was. What do you guys think about, instead of them throwing the case out or going ahead and doing his sentencing and whatever, because they can do his sentencing and then postpone his sentencing until after he gets out of office, instead of postponing the whole deal again, kicking the can down the road. They're not doing away with the case. He's not being sentenced. So for those who keep saying that he's a 34 count felon, until you're sentenced, you're not actually a felon yet. So when they say that, he's been found guilty, but he's not been sentenced. So he's not an actual 34 counts of felon, which is dumb anyway. And I think why they're doing this is Trump's team's going to have this thrown out of court before it goes anywhere else anyway. So why they just postponing the inevitable is beyond me. That was the last thing I wanted to talk about tonight, was that his court case about the hush money to Stormy Daniels. So it kind of like tied in with the deal, kind of like with somebody hacked into the DOJ and wanted to leak out the testimonial of the people accusing the accusations against Matt Gaetz. It's kind of the same thing. It's just something they want to throw out there to help their narrative out. Yeah, TJ, you're right about that. It's just where we have platforms like this, and not necessarily me personally, but the fact that alternative media basically is how you can get the truth. And then you have to pay attention to those too, because everybody has an agenda. Like, obviously, I lean right. I'm not left leaning, although I'm not a person who's like the left is not willing to talk to me, but I'm still willing to talk to the left. So I'm more tolerant than they are. But saying that, you can tell by just listening to somebody's the information they're feeding you. Within the first 5 minutes, you know which direction they're going, and if it seems like it's coming from an honest place or not. Hopefully, you can tell the difference. This Marla, this media keeps pushing. Yeah, they keep pushing he's a felon, but I mean, for those who paid attention to that whole court case, you got a few things you got to pay attention to on that. For one, the whole case was based off of a campaign violation that the statute of limitations had already expired on it. So they created a bookkeeping fraud element to it to try to make it a federal case, in which the two cases should have never been blended together because when they went and told the jury, here's the things that you either think he's guilty of this or guilty of that, and I'll not get into the whole deal of what it is. Well, the quick thing is they try to say he did bookkeeping fraud in the bookkeeping section of where the checks were written. It says legal fees. And it actually was for legal fees. That's what the money was spent for. So how they could call that fraud is beyond me, but they said they had to find him guilty of paying money out of campaign funds, which, like I said, statute of limitations is over with on that, or fraudulently mislabeling the checks that were written to Michael Cohen every month, he was on a retainer. He was President Trump's lawyer. He got a monthly check from President Trump as a legal retainer, no matter how he was used, whether it be for contract negotiations or even this, which, according to even Michael Cohen's own account, he handled this and then told the president what he did. And the president got mad at him, apparently, because he said, oh, I'd have never paid her anything. I didn't do that. She can't prove that. You paid her money. Now it makes it look like I did something. Believe it or not, that was an entire conversation. So Michael Cohen did this on his own. But he'd already spent the money, so Trump paid him in increments back as legal fees after the fact. And this is his 30, because I think it was 34 checks that were written to as increments of his regular fee every month, and then a portion added to it to pay him back. And this is how it becomes a felony, non-felony charge. And none of the jurors had to even agree to which one he was guilty of or which one they thought he was guilty of. And as the judge said this, as long as you guys think he's guilty of one of them, because there was a third one too, and I can't remember what it is. Sorry, it's at the top of my head. But you all don't have to agree all of the same charge, just that he's guilty of one of them. If you think he's guilty of one of them, then you bring back a guilty verdict. That's how, and of course it was in New York. His case was done in a blue state. I mean, so it's a dumb case. So they can call him a convicted felon all they want. That's why most people don't give a shit. They don't care. You know, when people are, when you tell them you don't care that he was found guilty of that or whatever, you know, you'll see him go, oh, I can't believe it. You allow a felon to be president. Well, yeah, this type of felon I would. I have no problem with him. But, you know, so that's the last thing I wanted to talk to you all about was that there. So my next live stream will be Friday afternoon, 6:30 Eastern. It won't be on the car channel. I only do although I say that it may be because this here is on both my channels tonight. It's on my car channel and my Jimmy Pockets channel. I've been trying to get away from the political stuff on my car channel, but I've not been feeling well, so I've not really done any car content. So I may do this Friday on my car channel too, since I don't have any car content out there, just to keep stuff rolling. He was impeached twice, but even his impeachments were ridiculous, Marla. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know you're laughing, but you know what I mean? For what they try to impeach him for, and it's a good thing we had control of the Senate, or else he would have been removed from office. You know, it's us having control of the Senate at that time kept him from being removed from office, but still, the things that they got to remember this stuff, because what goes around comes around. And hopefully they can get in there and get some rules changed. Because before I get off here, because I got certain things that I want. I want term limits for all these politicians. That's in the Congress. I want term limits for their staffers. I think their staffers can only work for them for so many years before they can't work in government no more, or at least at a federal level. They may be able to still work at a state level, but not at a federal level. I think and Trump's even said this himself, can't be a lobbyist after so many years, like 5 years after you get out of office. You can't lobby for anything or anybody for 5 years. And honestly, I think they should not be allowed to do stock purchases. I think they ought to be on their 401k while they're in office, and not be personally involved in stock purchases. Now, saying that, it's kind of hard to stop a family member from doing it. But even then, if it's a direct family member, say a spouse, then, that kind of plays in, well, how does the spouse know all these, like the Pelosi's? The Pelosi's have made almost perfect stock purchases over the few decades. That the only way they would be able to do that is if they had information, and that influences which bill that they want to pass or get behind. So that, insider trading, that's the problem with insider trading. They're not held accountable for that, even though it's something me and you could get in trouble for. They do not. And it influences how they vote on stuff. That's why I say they should not be allowed to do any stock purchases. Let the 401k, let an outside third party do it until they get out of office. But that's my personal opinion, and those are a couple of things that I hope happens going forward. Got to be held accountable for the laws that these people have broken the last 3-4 years. That there have been laws broken. Get some limits on there. And I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to paying taxes, I think there should be a flat tax. I think there should be a flat tax. I think election day should be a national holiday. Just a few things that I want to happen. I don't know if it ever will. But saying that, it's been a good live stream. Hopefully, you found it educational and even disturbing with the Walter Cronkite video. But it lets you know that they've been planning this stuff for a long time. This ain't something that just happened overnight. So, but maybe something that we could fix a whole lot faster than they've been trying to put it together. Because they've been trying to sneak everything through the back door, except for the last four to 6 years. Well, actually, ever since Obama was in office, that's when it really accelerated. The Clintons, in my opinion, is when I started noticing it. Thanks, Marla. Everybody, I appreciate y'all coming in. Like I said, for those who want to come and hang out, this Friday coming up at 6:30 Eastern. If not, for those who like the night out thing, I'll see y'all next Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. And we'll have another conversation. Till then, guys, enjoy your evening. Try to get some sleep if you're in this time zone. If it's in the middle of your day somewhere, have a good afternoon. I'll talk to you guys later. This is Jimmy Pockets, aka James.